citizens to directly participate in our government. That's one important reason. The second important reason is that the jury trial sharpens everyone's skills that's in the criminal justice system. Okay, an investigator, he may have investigated dozens of crimes, but until he has sat on that witness stand and endured cross-examination by a defense lawyer, he has not fully experienced what he needs to experience to sharpen his skills and to improve his investigation. So it's important that from the prosecution standpoint, we need to go through that because we're not as sharp at our analytical skills because we've undergone the rigors of a jury trial. So we all get better when we present our cases to the jury. And the third important aspect of a jury trial is that when, believe it or not, bad guys talk, they recognize when a district or a DA's office is willing to take cases to a jury, present those cases to 12 people, and those verdicts speak loudly to the criminal element. And I'll give you an example of this. I learned it the third week that I took office. I tried a case, and I got 3 life sentences and 550 years against a gentleman for kidnapping and raping a 17-year-old girl. I'm leaving the parking lot after that verdict is returned, and Thomas Howdyshell, the jail administrator over here, comes running, he flags me down. Hey, I just want to tell you something. He's got a big smile on his face. You ought to hear the guys in the jail just clamoring up there saying, man, we wish we would have taken that plea agreement that was offered before Kuester took office. It makes a huge impact. And plea agreements will always be around. They have to be, or in 2030, we're trying today's cases. Okay, we don't have enough systems to manage. We can't try every case. Our plea agreements are better as a result of our great trial results. Okay? Having said all that and given that background, we are now at 65 jury trials, tried in ultimately, just the first 3 years that I've been in office. At the end of next week, we'll be done with jury trials for the year. We have no more jury terms left anywhere in the district after next week, and that is here in Wagoner. So I suspect by the end of next week we'll have tried 67 cases in the district in those 3 years. Okay? To give you a little idea of our success, overall we have won 78% of those 65 cases. Now that includes cases that were filed before I took office. Cases that were filed in 2010, 2009, 2008, sadly, even as far back as 2005. If you remove those cases that we lost that were filed before I took office, our success rate is 91%. So 91% guilty verdicts. And I don't know if that means much to you, but let me tell you what it means to me. It means that in those cases that we filed, we have requested more information from law enforcement, and law enforcement has responded with providing us with more information, which makes our cases stronger and results in better jury verdicts. And I've touched on, I said the word law enforcement. I want to pause just a second and say that all this work that we've done in 65 jury trials, it's not done just by our office alone. Okay? We kind of have to be the driving force behind it, but it's not just us. The judges have had to work harder. The court clerks have had to work harder because we need more jurors more times a year to handle what we want to try. So the court clerk has had to send out more summons. The court reporters have had to tire their fingers more often. And of course, the law enforcement community has had to respond by giving us more information and working harder because, hey, if we don't have good investigations, we're not going to have success in a jury trial. If we don't have good investigations and we look at this and we think that there's no way we can win, we can't take it in front of the jury. We just can't. It's not the right thing to do. So all those entities that are involved in this criminal justice system have stepped up. Okay, they've accepted our challenge, and they've agreed, with us that this needs to be done, and they've followed suit. So I'm really proud of the teamwork of all these entities that have to work hard to make these things happen. 25% of those cases that we've tried have been murder cases. Believe it or not, we've tried 16 murder cases in 3 years in 4 counties. 23%, I believe, are other violent crimes, 19% drug crimes, 15% are sexual type crimes, and then we've got other DUIs and that kind of thing that don't fall within a nice category like those others. 3% animal abuse, and 3% parental termination of parental rights. And again, these are district-wide numbers. I think that's about it for something old. Okay, and I'll allow you guys to ask me questions about anything that falls in that category when I'm done. Something new is district attorney probation. Years ago, long before I was even an attorney, let alone a district attorney, the legislature gave DAs this, what they called a tool, if you will, to fund their offices. Many people don't know this, but the legislature only gives us, this district anyway, 37% of the money that is required to operate it. Okay, everything else comes from bogus check fees, comes from DA supervision, which I'll explain in a moment, federal grants, which as we all know are becoming more and more difficult to keep. And there are several other funding sources, fees, and that sort of thing. Well, but when the legislature said, here, you can have a defendant pay you $40 a month for up to 2 years, they didn't give us any rules to follow. They just said, hey, just collect their $40 and send them on down the road. Okay? We didn't have to have any kind of a program. We didn't have to require that they do a drug test. We didn't have to do any of that stuff. I don't think that's the right way to go. Okay? If it's a drug or an alcohol charge, we'll do random drug tests so that we can hold them accountable. But there's also a carrot out in front that, hey, if you all work this program and do the right thing for a year or two, then you're going to walk out of here a better person. You've had some time with the job. You can support your family. You're on the right path, and hopefully we never see you again. So I'm very pleased with that program, and every time I talk about this, I've got to tell this story because it's a feel-good story. When I heard it, I couldn't believe I was hearing it, straight from the mouth of a probationer. This guy called the office up here in Wagoner and said, hey, have Mr. Kuester call me. I'm a person on probation in Sequoyah County. This story comes to you from Sequoyah County. And the message said, I want to talk to him about his probation officer. Oh boy. Here we go. You know, people like to complain. They don't often call to say, good job. So I called this guy, and I'm going to call him, I'll just call him Lee, just for sake of anonymity. You guys don't know who he is. But Lee tells me his life story. He says, I've been in and out of prison most of my life. He's 45 or somewhere in that neighborhood. In and out of prison, been a drug user most of my life. And I picked up this minor charge in Sequoyah County, and I was put on DA probation. It wasn't a prison-suitable offense. And I went and talked to Steve. That's the real name of my probation officer in Sequoyah County. He said, now Steve looked at me and he said, what is the most important thing in your life, Lee? And Lee told me, well, I thought about it for a little bit. I said, well, my wife and my kids, who incidentally, they were separated. Lee and his wife were separated, the kids were with his wife. And Steve said, well, I tell you what, were you passed a drug test? You took one right now? And Lee was honest with him and said, no, sir, probably not. And Steve told Lee, how do you think your kid's going to feel when you go back to prison? And I don't know the inner workings of Lee, but something clicked inside of Lee. Steve and Lee have an agreement, you come back in 30 days and be better, pass the drug test. Yeah, and right now, you're probably going to go back to prison. Well, Lee tells me that during the course of that 30 days, he and his wife started marriage counseling. He and his wife got back together. They started going to church. And then Lee came back 30 days later, he passed the drug test. And Lee was just ecstatic that Steve had cared enough to look him in the eye and tell him he better get his act straight, or he was going back where he was going to go.
I think, no, that is a great story, and I thought Lee was about to say goodbye, but Lee told me one more thing, which made the story even better, and helps me understand that we're talking about generations here. We're not just talking about, we've got to do it one person at a time, but we can affect generations in the work that we do. Lee said, I got one more thing I want to tell you, Brian. He said, I've got a son that's 22, 23, who's been taking the same path that I have. He just drugs, he's already been in the penitentiary one time. And after I got my life together, my son called me and he said, Dad, I want you to come and get me. Now, Lee had heard this, had this phone call many times before. And you know, you go get him and then it would turn out to be a waste of his time. So Lee asked the question, why would I come pick you up? And his son said, Dad, I've seen the change in your life, and I don't know what it is, but I want some of that. And so Lee went and picked up his son. I don't know the rest of the story beyond that. I'm an optimist in most cases, so I hope it's got a great ending. And I hope that Lee's son and Lee's grandchildren and Lee's great-grandchildren benefit as a result of that conversation that Steve had with Lee. But even if Lee didn't, even if that doesn't happen, I know that we are impacting people and we are impacting generations through this program. Okay?